Tommy Pham, there's video of him slapping Joc Pederson, and Joc Pederson, they interview him after the game and they say, what was that about? And he's like, instead of saying, no, it's just a personal thing, I'd rather not talk about it. He's like, he gives a very detailed explanation about how they are in a fantasy football league. And by the way, the fact that the best baseball news is football news is really shows you that football is king. Not that there was any doubt, but Pederson talks about how he put a player, it was Jeff Wilson, right, Check? The wide receiver.
Right.
On IR during the COVID year, 2020. They're all COVID years, but when he should have been, I don't know, Tommy Pham, what was Pham's case that he should have had to cut him from the roster? And
I believe he put a guy on injured reserve who wasn't actually injured, right? He was like a day-to-day questionable type of situation. He put him on IR to save a spot.
Oh my God.
And I think that's what had happened. And then Tommy Pham Joc Pederson said, you're doing the same thing with Jeff Wilson Jr. on your team, Tommy Pham. And then 8 months later, it all came to a head, I suppose.
This is unbelievable. Sheck, I was hanging with your friend, Lindsay Rhodes. Her kid, my kid, play on the same baseball team here. And this, like, the more news was coming down. She's the fantasy expert there. But it's insane to me. I don't know. And we've had so many fantasy arguments, Sheck, in our league. And it surprisingly never led to physicality, as far as I can remember, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, close cousins of, fella on fella hitting each other. We did famously see our pal Randy abuse himself physically by jumping off of a second floor fire escape.
Yes, he was kicked out of the league and then didn't want to go through the main entrance. So went out the back, and where he was surprised to see there was like a balcony. So he had to jump off. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, that was.
And to be fair, we had our own. So this is Jeff Wilson gate or Pham Joc gate. We had Gurley gate 2 years ago.
Yes.
Tall John went to war with Kevin Hench and over Gurley, and I can't even remember the specifics of it. But the difference is Joc and Pham had to share a locker room. So those close quarters perhaps was the difference, because I don't think there's I don't think there's much question to close observers like you and me that thing would have come to blows between those guys. Grown men arguing vicious, the most mean-spirited words I've ever seen, because Todd Gurley was part of a trade or wasn't or something like that. I mean, it's still
one of those things where no one objected to the trade at the time, and then the trade is made, and it seems lopsided afterwards, and everyone's like, "Oh, what the hell? He should be out of the league, this and that." And the guy who made the trade's like, "Hey, I put Gurley up for grabs, and nobody took it." It's always the same thing. But the slapping in the outfield is Martin. You team Pham or team Joc?
I think I'm team Pham here.
Really?
Because I feel like there has to be more to the story. There has to be. Because here's the question I was going to ask Dave just a second ago, because you guys are actively in your fantasy leagues, but you're not in the same place, right? Like you said, Pham and Joc had to share locker rooms, or at least that they are both work for Major League Baseball. So there you go, right? But I wonder if in your debate between Hench and Tall John, had you all been in the same room, would the debate have been as contentious? Because now you're not behind your thumbs. You're not behind the screen. You're actually saying the real words.
Well, I will say there's a banquet at Shakey's every year after the season, and it was kind of tense. I'll say that. Yeah, you're right. I don't know. It was like, I did kind of think
that was like I thought that was like the little Saturday morning truce a la The Wire. Like this is like where we're not going to beef out. Like the season is over. But I was just curious because I feel like Joc Pederson may have said one or two things to Tommy Pham in text messages that he wouldn't have said in real life. And Tommy Pham's got a long memory.
Come on. Well, first of all, the reason I lost the trophy is because I was afraid Hench would break it over Tall John's head or vice versa.
He wouldn't be able to reach. Yeah.
Right. He was one was gonna impale the other with this trophy. Jamie, Tall John's partner, he has the snarky remarks too. Yeah, he's another one. We shouldn't let him off the hook with this. As we play inside baseball about fantasy football between baseball players.
But anyway, I don't know how.
Of course, I'm Team Joc. He's a sore loser. Team Joc sent him a man. Said he's so precious. Tommy Pham can't look at a meme.
GIF.
Is that what it was? It was a GIF. I don't remember
of like a Padre getting. I don't know. He made fun of his team or something. It was stupid.
Feelings. So he Will Smith them. He Fresh Prince them because he said them. He said, "Don't tell me that these guys don't care." Well, you can't get to him. He's a professional athlete. You can't get in his head. Obviously, how many examples have we had over the last few months of how easy it is to get into the professional athlete's brain? You send him a mean meme, and he has to go in and Fresh Prince you over it. Jesus,
Martin,
of course, he's the one clutching his pearls, not Joc Pederson, who actually wears pearls.
No, I know, you're right. But Martin, I thought that immediately. I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be a bigger thing. I hope this stays fun, right? It's going to be a bigger thing. There was some racial component, but I don't think there was. Like Pham kind of put it out there. It's like, no, man, we weren't close enough for him to be sending these GIFs, and there was real money involved, and then Joc shows the actual text chain. So I think what it is what it is. I think we kind of saw what it is. Here's the thing that sucks about it.
Go ahead.
What's that?
I was just saying, I just think that maybe he called him like, it's like, hey, don't call me a punk ass bitch. Like I was thinking more along those lines. I was thinking like, hey, bro, he's not gonna call me that.
So he's fined 3 games. Well, he's suspended 3 games, and I worked it out. I think that's $111,000 for a guy who makes $6 million a year. That's $111,000. I don't know what the fee is or what the prize is for their fantasy league is, but probably not $111,000. Probably not worth it all said and done. But the thing that bugs me, and this is the Wojs of the world, are going to be like, you see, is this gambling? I think the more the Tommy Phams of the world say there's a lot of money involved here, then you're like, shit, this is gambling. This is a different sport, so not directly related. But should players be allowed to play fantasy? I think it's different from what Calvin Ridley did. Again, if it's football on football, it's we're getting a little closer. But baseball, football is fine. Just the fact that they're talking big money kind of scares me a little, Sheck.
I hear you, because people will ascend to Mount Pius over this, as they do over almost anything that happens in our society. But of course, they should be allowed to play. Yes, it's gambling, especially I can't imagine what level they're talking about. These are multimillionaires after all.
Yeah.
I just, the idea that there's room to defend Pham Fresh Princing somebody because he didn't like a meme, it hurt his feelings, it made him mad. Send them back something in reference to the irony of a morbidly obese slob like Joc Pederson being named Joc. Hey, Joc, ironic name for somebody as fat as you are. That's the end of the conversation.
I don't think there's a lot of irony in Tommy Pham's life. He was stabbed in a strip club. I don't know. I'm not sure if irony. It might escape him a little bit. I will say, it's a lot. You do have football players. I was talking to Lindsay Rhodes, I bring her up again. She's talking like they had Josh Allen on, talking about like he had 2 Bills receivers on his fantasy team. Like, all right, everyone just shut up. You're going to ruin it. You're going to ruin it for us.
Fantasy is gambling, 100%. That's all daily fantasy especially, right?
Oh, but of course.
I think the difference is, or at least you can't bet really the other side in fantasy. Like if you're going to build a fantasy lineup, you're generally betting that this player is going to do well, this player is going to do well, and like you can't like fade super like. So I'm sure you can, but it's not necessarily like you're not just going to take like if Tommy Pham knew that Justin Herbert texted him that day and he's like, yo, I'm not going today. So he's like, I'm going to bench him in my, like, you can't just bet on the other side, bet on the other game. You see what I'm saying?
That football to baseball, there's not that. We can't police everything, right? But and again, I don't expect this to happen with the Josh Allen. But if he's playing against himself in a fantasy league, you don't think he's going to tank it for sure. But there are people like Czech says who are going to bring this up. But like, oh, really? It came out that he was in this $1 million fantasy league. Like, why did he throw for the touchdown instead of running for the touchdown? Because it's a 6 point. Like, it's going to be ridiculous. I mean, this is the rest of our lives. We're going to hear about this nonsense, but
you were saying what it worked out to be like what $100,000 that he was going to miss or something.
Yeah, I have 111. I did some. So
but because you kind of just threw that out there. I mean, could that not be the payout?
It could be.
I mean, he makes $6 million a year. I mean, how much would you have to at a 10-person league?
No, it could be like 10 grand, 10 people, or 15 grand, 10 player league, a 12 player league. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, Jesus Christ. What are we talking about? The scales of justice once again. Which guy Put them on the scales of justice. Which guy do you want in your fantasy league? The one who's slapping people or the one who's sending memes and doing hilarious
I'm not sure.
deadpan?
I want
Here are the
both.
receipts.
I want
Here are the
one of each,
receipts on my
actually.
phone of what I
really
said, and then I did this. Clearly beclowning Tommy Pham.
Yeah.
And Tommy Pham's actually mad about it. Obviously, if you ain't Team Joc, I don't know what to tell you. You're a weirdo.
All right.
You're a
There you
weirdo.
go.
Don't name
We're all
call.
weirdos.